Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Journey Inside the Mind, where the chains of anxiety and trauma can be broken. Today, we're diving deep into the transformative world of neurolinguistic programming, or NLP. You'll discover how this powerful technique is not just changing lives, but rewriting the stories we tell ourselves. From veterans overcoming PTSD to everyday people unlocking their true potential, get ready to learn the secrets that can shift your reality. Stay tuned as we explore how to transform your mental landscape with NLP. So, what initially drew you to neurolinguistic programming, and how has it transformed your life both personally and professionally?
I was drawn to neurolinguistic programming because I saw how rapidly the change can be for behavior and patterns that we create in our life. How it's changed me is I've noticed in every part of my life, from my relationship with my husband to parenting my children, how the tools that I use with my clients has all transformed completely because neurolinguistic programming has actually given me the tools of how to communicate and how to make a conscious choice in every reaction, every response that I make in everyday life.
How does NLP differ from traditional therapy methods, and why do you believe it's effective for issues like anxiety and trauma?
I feel that NLP differs from traditional therapy because traditional therapy tends to focus on the past a lot and focus on the why. With NLP, we tend to focus on the present and the now and more about our beliefs and how we respond. So, where traditional therapy is super needed and valued, it's kind of like a long road trip with a lot of stops in between. And NLP puts the person in the driver's seat where they can actually steer and direct the path that they want to go down.
You often talk about rewriting the narrative for those with PTSD or anxiety. Can you explain what that means in practical terms?
It means that we're changing how somebody interprets these experiences. So, a threat might be turned into a challenge, or an experience, we might look at the lessons that we receive from it, but it changes how they interpret the experience, which reduces the emotional impact.
So, you've worked with veterans experiencing PTSD. Can you share a story where NLP made a significant difference in someone's life?
Actually, yes. I worked with a young gentleman who was experienced PTSD and was kind of self-sabotaging his own life. And he had kind of hit rock bottom when I met with him. And so we met every day. And every day we just chisel away at different things. First, we started off with reframing some of the experiences he had. We actually turned down the level of intensity of the emotions that he was carrying from those experiences when he was overseas. Then we started going into belief work and some of the beliefs that he had created that was limiting him on what he actually wanted in life. And then we went through and we figured out what he really wanted. Once we had everything cleared out, we focused on what he really wanted. And then we started implementing new responses so that when he comes across future challenges that would normally trigger him, he had a different response. And so today, I'm happy to say that he is actually thriving. He's building a new business. He's getting his family back together. And he realizes at this point, the things that happened in the past don't have to dictate what happens to him now in the future.
What's the most surprising or counterintuitive thing you've learned about human behavior through your work with NLP?
Ooh, the most surprising thing I've learned through NLP is how quickly we can change a mood just by changing our posturing, changing our thoughts, changing the tone of the words that we use even. Can make a vast difference on your mood. So if you're stressed out, nervous, just changing your posturing and sitting in that for 30, 60 seconds can vastly change the direction of your next meeting that you're about to walk into.
In your experience, what are the common misconceptions that people have about overcoming things like anxiety, depression, PTSD, or any other blockages they may come across or experience?
I would say that Most people don't realize how quickly we can make these changes. With traditional talk therapy, we're used to hearing that people will be with somebody for years on end. With NLP, it's kind of like the new kid on the block, even though it's not truly new. But it's kind of like the new kid on the block. We don't deal with things in the past so much. We don't even have to relive if there was a trauma. And quite frankly, our brain is so amazing at rewriting things that half the time with my clients, when they have a trauma, maybe it's happened when they were younger, they don't have to fully remember what it is to let it go. And that probably to me has been one of the most surprising things that I've come across, let alone the fact that you don't have to relive it. So if you had a unfortunate experience, you don't have to relive it. And change can be rather rapid. Rapid as in like weeks to months.
How can someone begin to change their neural pathways to achieve personal success or overcome their limiting beliefs?
By constantly practicing new behaviors. So our mind works like this. We will have a reaction. So let's say I was full of anxiety. I was really nervous and stressed out. Okay. And I decided I wanted to have an Oreo. Okay. Next time I have anxiety, my mind might remember that and go, oh, hey, let's have another Oreo. If I do that enough, I'll actually create a pathway in my mind where the next time I feel stressed, I'm going to crave an Oreo. But at some point, I'm just going to start craving Oreos and not know why. And that's where a lot of us are at today. We don't know that the underlying reason that I'm craving that Oreo is because I actually am stressed out. So in that moment of craving an Oreo, there's a flicker of a thought that's going to pop into my head prior to craving that Oreo. And it's paying attention to those little moments before I respond or react. So if your husband says something to you and it triggers you to want to respond a certain way, it's pausing and thinking, okay, what about this situation is causing me to want to respond this way? Because you've probably responded that way for many, many years of your life. And it's being consciously aware of those little moments daily that are going to help you rewire and retrain your responses, so that moving forward, you're actually retraining your responses to be who you want them to be consciously, not all this programming that we've had in the past that we didn't ask for.
So you mentioned that confidence can be unlocked rather than built. Can you elaborate on how one might unlock their confidence using NLP techniques?
By associating confidence with simple cues and states. So take into mind, most people are probably at work super confident in the niche that they do. But if you take them out of that element and put them in another situation, say like dancing, I see a lot of gentlemen. They run businesses. They might have higher ranks in the military, so they're in charge and oversee large groups of people. They're in their element and in their authority, and they're confident in those states. Put them on a dance floor with their wife, and suddenly they're not in their element anymore, and that insecurity comes up. Now, what we do with NLP is we learn how to tap in, and we teach you how to tap into that state so you can bring that state over into other situations where maybe you're not in your niche and you're out of your normal comfort zone, but we can tap into those confident states and bring them over. Kind of like when you walk into a room and say you smell fresh baked cookies and it reminds you of your grandmother, or a certain perfume and it brings joy because it instantly takes you back to a time you were walking on a beach with a loved one. It's bringing those states along with us throughout life to carry you into the situations that maybe are not your niche or expertise, but you can still walk with confidence.
What role does physical posture play in mental state changes? And how do you incorporate this in your sessions?
Posture can change our mood almost instantly. About 60 seconds of a posture will actually start to dictate how our mood is going to move forward. So we used to teach this in dance. People read body language. We use this in performance as well. If I'm standing on stage and I want to portray that I'm shy, I would draw everything in. This tells people I'm either sad, I'm withdrawn, I'm not approachable. If I wanted the opposite, I would draw my chest up, which lifts my face up. It elongates my neck. I stretch my shoulders back. I'm now portraying confidence. I'm portraying that I'm more open and available to talk to. the reason we teach these is not only do we read these as body language, but our body and our mind are highly connected. So how our body stands, it also tells our mind what emotions and what hormones to release so that we feel the emotions that match it. It's like talking to somebody with a smile on your face and trying to sound angry. I dare you to try it. It's almost impossible because our brain is so entangled in how our facial expressions are, how our body is. We actually emulate that through the tone in our voice and through the emotions, because the chemicals that release from our brain are actually telling our body that that's how we're feeling. And now, how we utilize this in our sessions is I actually teach my clients how to use this in important situations. So if they're getting ready to go into a big business meeting or an interview, or they're getting ready to step out on stage, I teach them how to utilize these to not only change the response and the reactions that other people give to them, but also how they respond to others.
You've talked about the power of connection in your posts. How do you leverage NLP to enhance interpersonal connections or influence?
By teaching people to mirror behavior and language on a subtle level. So this builds rapport and it enhances relationships. And here's how. If I know that somebody is, say, an auditory learner, then I'm going to use more auditory words when I speak. If I know somebody's more a visual learner, I'm going to use visual terms like do you see, or I see, look over here. When I use terms like this, their mind naturally wants to gravitate towards what I'm saying, and they automatically feel more comfortable around me. This allows me to build that rapport, and this is the way we create rapid connection.
What's one technique from NLP that you wish everyone knew about to improve their daily lives?
I wish everybody understood reframing. I mean, taking any experience and being able to reframe it, realizing the fact that the way you might interpret something might be completely different from how the person next to you is interpreting it. And it's all based on our beliefs and the map that we created when we're really young about what the world means and how we fit into it. We're looking at everything through those colored lenses. So I think reframing would be the biggest thing, is getting people to recognize that just because they see it one way doesn't mean it's the only way to see a situation, and being able to step outside from themselves and view it from multiple angles, I think will make us all societally better communicators.
How do you measure success in your clients? And what does long-term transformation look like for them?
When they've achieved long-term change in their behavior and responses, that's when we know that we've succeeded.
So how do you handle cases where progress seems slow or challenging?
When I have a client that maybe is going a little slower than what they would like, we tend to adjust how we are going forward. We like to set small, achievable goals, and then really making sure that we are celebrating the smaller wins. Because a lot of times what I've noticed is that people will achieve things, but it goes unnoticed. So when we mark down the small subtleties that we see throughout the days, this now primes our brain and our filter in our mind to actually see the changes in real time, which a lot of times end up being bigger than we realize.
You've discussed the concept of anchoring for mood or state change. Could you give an example of how someone might set up an anchor for themselves?
So we can set up anchors all on our own. And actually, it's fascinating. With NLP, it's a big study about successful people. And throughout that, in one of the classes, we actually learned about a gentleman. I believe it was his father who had passed. He was at a funeral, and people kept coming up and giving them his condolences. And every time they did, they grabbed his forearm. And this happened several times throughout the time of the funeral. And I think it was months later, he was out with friends and someone grabbed his arm, and these emotions from the funeral and from the loss of his father came rushing back. And through the study with NLP, what we found is that with the repetitive touch, when emotions are at a peak state, and that's key, the body actually locks in that emotion. So we can take something like, say you want to bring confidence in, and you can push, let's say between the knuckles, you can push that point when you're at the peak state of confidence. You're just feeling the most confident you feel, and you're in those emotions, and you press that spot right between your knuckles, and then release. And then you close your eyes and you get into that feeling again, and you get to the peak state of confidence, and you press that knuckle. Hold it for about 3 seconds and let it go. And do that about 5 or 6 times. And before you know it, you'll be in another situation. Maybe you are at a networking event and don't feel super confident. You could press that same spot. And before you know it, just like how when you smell that perfume and you're carried back into that memory, you're going to press that space between your knuckle, and that confidence is going to come rushing back.
Lastly, for someone watching this who feels stuck, what's the first step they should take to start their journey towards healing or success?
If you feel stuck, identify one small, manageable change that you can make about how you either think or how you respond. And then just focus on that. And that alone sometimes can make a vast change in a family dynamic or relationships at home.
Thank you so much for being here today and taking the time to answer these questions about NLP. Do you think you could share where viewers can reach out to you if they're intrigued by what you've shared today and are looking to explore NLP for transforming themselves or for assisting someone they care about?
Yes, like and subscribe. And then down below in the comment center, there'll be a link attached to this video. Go ahead and reach out to us. We have several different pathway options. We do customizable things, one-on-one work. Just reach out to us. We'd love to help.